Class, today I want to talk to you about writing an analytical paragraph, or more specifically, a paragraph about theme. In order to write, we first have to use our reading strategies. We've been doing this a lot lately. They're in every one of your level one activities for poetry. And the reading strategies we use are numbered 1 through 8 here. The first being examine the structure, the second look at the title, the third read and annotate. You should find words and phrases that stand out for you, and you should identify unknown words and look those up. We should reread again and continue to annotate. We are looking for repetition, we're checking for rhyme. We should sketch out any imagery that we can. We then circle words that create a feeling, and those words help us to find a tone for the poem or the text we're reading. We should always look at questioning. We should learn to question ourselves. But before we get to that stage, you are lucky enough to have us teachers, and we ask you questions in hopes that it helps you find meaning. And finally, you should ask yourself, what is the message that the author is trying to show us? So in class the other day, we looked at this is just to say. And I took some of our notes and I added them to the annotations over here. So we did look at the structure of the poem, and we said there were 3 stanzas with 4 lines each. They were short, tiny little lines with no real punctuation, and the word forgive is capitalized. The structure of the poem makes it feel very accessible and also not very serious. We looked at the title, This Is Just to Say, and the title makes it seem like it is part of the poem. It starts the poem off and it feeds right into the first line, which is, I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious and so sweet and so cold. So we then took some notes. We said the speaker is I. The speaker is not necessarily the author, but in this case, we feel like it might be. We feel like the author might be speaking to his wife when he says you, and these details make the poem feel like a short little note. We looked at the word icebox and realized it's an old-fashioned word for refrigerator. We figured out that we could imagine a person standing in a kitchen, um, spying a perfectly ripe bowl of plums and eating one as a snack. But upon tasting the first, we could imagine the speaker eating the whole bowl of plums. Um, we also noted that there is no rhyme or repetition, but there's a repeated S sound here. They were delicious, so sweet and so cold, which gave the poem a playful little feeling. And then up here we noted that the speaker says, forgive me, but then follows that up with a description about how wonderful the plums were, so sweet and so cold, showing us that the speaker really enjoyed them and the person who was saving them wouldn't get to enjoy them. And hopefully, the person who was saving them was happy that the speaker did enjoy them. We listed some words in terms of tone, and I think your list was just probably forgive, delicious, so sweet, and so cold. And combined, you felt that the words created a playful, mischievous, and jovial tone. So these are just the start. This is just the start of our taking the poem apart. The speaker, who is the speaker? One might assume the speaker is the poet, but it doesn't have to be. To whom is he or she speaking? The speaker is addressing someone who seems to live with him or her, and they share a refrigerator. And what is the poem about? And this poem felt very, very approachable. So we felt it was about a person who ate all the plums, someone else was saving for breakfast. He or she asks for forgiveness, but then they go on to describe how sweet, cold, and delicious the plums were, making the note not seem so much like an apology, but letting the reader know how much he or she enjoyed them. So now we've gathered all this information and we ask ourselves, what might the message be about this poem? And so, first of all, I thought about some topics, and the poem might be about home, or because of the icebox, or about guilt because he or she might be feeling guilty. Perhaps a topic could be choices because the speaker had a choice to eat or not eat the plums. Sorry. A topic could be love because um, love is asking for forgiveness and delighting in the joy of others. Or it could be about the power of words because this poem might simply have been a note. Perhaps it was a bound poem. But regardless, the poem preserves a moment and a feeling, and because it was written, it has endured, and therefore we know that words have real power. You yourself may have come up with different topics, and that's totally awesome. We don't have to think the same way. That's part of the beauty of English and literature. So, next, what is the author saying about the topic? What can we infer? Well, he might be saying that home is a place where people we live with find joy when they can make each other happy. He might be saying guilt is expressed more easily in a note, although I'm not really sure the speaker feels guilt. He might be saying the choices we make have consequences on others. He might be saying humor is an important part of love. Or he might be saying words are everlasting and powerful. You again may have a different message, and again, that would be totally awesome. So at this point, we've done a lot of our brainstorming work. So hashtag end of brainstorming, hashtag pre-writing is over. So once we've done all of this work, then we can begin our um, planning of our writing. And down here, I have created the paragraph structure for you. And you may or may not recall that I give you this acronym Texas or Texaxis. T meaning the topic sentence, which answers a question and states a claim. It also includes a title and author. Interesting typo there. E, explain your topic sentence. X is example from the text, but in order to give an example, we also have to give that example some context. The example must also prove or illustrate this topic sentence up here. Then we analyze or explain how this example proves this topic sentence. For our next example, we need a transition, we need context, and we need a second example from the text. After we have that, we explain how the second example proves, again, our topic sentence up here. And to end our paragraph, we summarize and conclude our idea. You should really try to refer back to your topic sentence so it feels complete. So I made a little example here for you. The topic sentence is this. The theme in This Is Just to Say by William Carlos Williams is that a happy life is one where people learn to use humor to navigate through daily slights. Now I'm going to explain what I mean. The poem seems to be a simple written note, perhaps from a husband to a wife, which is a confession and an apology, but the tone of the poem makes it a casual and jovial event. For example, the first glimpse we get of the playfulness between the two is in the title. That's the context. This is just to say, which sets the tone of the note. The word just creates a casual and good natured feeling, as it could mean simply or possibly, making the swiping of all the plums seem unimportant. This small word creates a sense of banter between speaker and reader and presents a lighthearted relationship between them both. So you'll notice I examine the word just and then I relate it back to our topic sentence. And the word lighthearted refers to humor. And it also discussed between them both where people learn to use humor. So here's our transition. As the poem continues, the speaker explains that he has not eaten one, but all the plums she was saving for breakfast. The speaker states, and here's your second example, forgive me, but then goes on to describe that the plums were delicious, so sweet and so cold. Here again is your analysis. As much as the speaker calls for forgiveness, he also shares a naughty side by telling just how wonderful the plums were. The spirited tone allows the reader to imagine the twinkle in his eye and the smile on her face as she reads the note, plumless. As much as she might be upset at not having plums for breakfast, the impish note allows him to confess, ask for forgiveness, and sets an easy way for her to humor him. So that's a lot of analysis. Notice it's more than one sentence, but we really examine the evidence and we relate it back to our topic sentence. Now, we want to end and conclude our paragraph, but I want it to be slightly different. So I state there's a saying that states, happy wife, happy life. And the theme in This Is Just to Say implies that if one uses humor to overcome daily annoyances, they will have a happy life. So, in this lesson, we talked about first using our reading strategies to brainstorm ideas, second, to come up with a theme by first identifying topics and then what the author might have to say about those topics. And once we have that information, we put them into our paragraph structure of a topic sentence, explaining that topic sentence in context of the poem, um, using context to put our first example in. Then we analyze that first example. We transition, use context and a second example. We analyze how the second example again proves our topic sentence, and then we summarize our whole paragraph. I hope this was helpful to you, and if you have any further questions, I hope please let me know.